Okay, we're going to go over Carry On, Mr. Bowditch, chapters 3 through 5. We're going to once again start by talking about what we've learned about our characters. So Nat is our protagonist, and we've learned that he's a quick learner, especially with math, and he really values education and enjoys school. We also learned through some descriptions and stuff that he's small. He's not a big guy. Not probably not very good at being a Cooper. The other thing that we've seen kind of as the plot has progressed is he transferred his hope first from wishing on a coin, then to making an investment in an expectation. And currently it's on a Harvard education, that this is going to be the solution to their problems. I really liked the way the author did a play on words, with the expectation being the name of that type of investment. And then when the man that he had purchased it from died, and thus his expectation was worthless, he was saying goodbye to lots of expectations and goodbye to lots of things, because that wasn't just one little investment, that represented his hope at that point. Nat is just good at living out the themes that the author describes as important. He doesn't blubber, he doesn't have a coat and he just brushes it off. And even when he was devastatingly disappointed when he's not going to get his Harvard education and instead was becoming an indentured servant, he thought of his sisters and put on a good face, didn't want to worry them. So a lot of good characteristics in Nat. His father is a foil character, and we've gone over that. That means that he is kind of under the same circumstances or a similar set of problems as the protagonist, and it's to show a little bit of a different reaction. And through doing this, you can kind of see, what would happen if our protagonist had handled this differently. And it also defines our protagonist a little bit, shows them off. And so what we see happening with him as things continue to get harder, he's going back to drinking. It's kind of subtle, but basically that's kind of the situation there. And then eventually he decides that the solution is for Nat to become an indentured servant and to work as a storekeeper because he's so bright and that sort of thing. And it's hard to, decide how harsh to be on him for this. Is he just looking for the easy way out? Does he not understand how that Nat's education could be so much better of a long-term solution? Does he really feel like he doesn't have any other options? Does he think that this would be a good thing? It's an apprenticeship and kind of a good fit. But at any rate, it does temporarily provide him with one less mouth to feed. And, it's just kind of interesting how he puts it on Nat to kind of come up with a way to help through that. We talked about that the plot is kind of the way the story progresses. And we have been in this area over here. We've been in exposition. This is represented by this straight line right here. That's where you're introduced to the protagonist, Nat. The antagonists or the problems, the setting. We talked about how we're in Massachusetts during the Revolutionary War. We also are seeing the conflicts of the story. We're seeing, wanting an education, wanting a better way to live, and all the external things like a shipwreck and father drinking and the war and things that make it hard, prices rising on things for them to have their goal. The inciting moment is kind of where this rising action really starts to take off. And I think I would put the inciting moment as when Nat is coming to breakfast. He thinks he's going to be getting an education finally, and then gets the dashing news of that he is becoming a servant for 9 years. And that Harvard thing is gone. And so we have a real, here is where things are, we're going to start seeing the rising action, problem after problem. It's not working, and then there will be the climax of the huge problem, and hopefully we'll get to some resolution here. So I think that's where we're at, is the inciting moment. Okay, so once again, themes. This author likes to use repetition to promote her themes, and you have seen a lot of repetition of here. If boys don't blubber. We also saw repeated throughout, things are going to get better now that the war's over. Now that we've kind of come to terms with how we're going to set things up. Now that, you name it, but they don't. Okay, and so that is a theme. Now remember, in our themes, we need to decide, do we agree or disagree with the author, and why? Do boys not blubber? Do things seem like they're going to get better and then they never do? So these are the things she wants us to think about, okay? Or he. I don't know. Okay, the next one is value of education, okay? Once again, is it more valuable for Nat to go out and be apprenticed and work that way, or to slow down and be another mouth to feed and get a good education? Which is going to work out better? I wanted to mention, I have just read a book called I Am Malala, and it's a present-day book on the value of education written by an older teenage girl. She got the Nobel Peace Prize for her valuing education, and she lived in Pakistan. She's now in Britain. But anyway, you should look that up and consider reading that, because I think in our specific society, education is so easy to come by that we may be losing the value of it and not realizing the value. And so you can realize that in past times, boy, Nat valued this and didn't get it. And here we have, even in present times in Pakistan, Malala valuing it and having to fight for it. And I think it's good to realize the value of education. Another big theme of this book is how much of our circumstances are a result of luck versus our own actions. Okay? So are they really, not getting better now because there's just nothing we can do about it and that's the way it is? Or is it because we're not working as hard as we should, or we're not making a good plan, or we're not praying, or we're not, or we're having sinful things, So, for example, on page 34, it says, if he put more rum in barrels and less in, and this is Grandma speaking, and Grandma kind of plays the role of expressing the themes in the book here for this part of the book, saying, part of this is his fault. He's not making as many barrels. Instead, he's getting depressed and putting rum, which is an alcoholic beverage, in his stomach, which makes things worse. This is also an example of situational irony, okay? Remember, he said, Nat, I gotta, basically go into town, and I think he was going to drink. So you can't go to school today. You've got to man the cooper shop. Well, if instead Father manned the cooper shop, then Nat could still be getting his education. So we need to constantly be thinking, are our circumstances just, we can't do anything about them? Or is our own actions playing a role? Or is it a combination of both? And what should we do? Okay? I wanted to talk about a theme pictured through symbolism. And actually, I would like to change that word a little bit. I think this is even a little more than symbolism. I would call this, hold on, I'm going to see if I can get this to do something for me. An allegory. I'm not good with this yet. Okay, we're just not going to write it. Okay. Whoa, I wrote down there. That's why. Okay. It's an allegory, an allegorical story. It's a story that is used to symbolize kind of things that are harder to see. And so the story of father wrecking at sea becomes an allegory for their lives during this time. Okay, so um, so the storm just simply symbolizes bad times. Okay, anchor to windward, trying to hold you away from wrecking on the shore, symbolizes mother at first. Okay, then we have the lee shore, that side where the shore is, and rocks and that sort of sides, symbolizes drinking, things that can break up everything. Okay, so you've got mother holding you back, and then you've got the drinking. Well, mother dies, and then we have the last anchor stated as Granny in this allegory. So we got one thing holding this family together, and it's Granny. And then Granny dies, okay? So then you've got this lee shore of drinking, and a shipwreck symbolizes a wrecked life in a family, okay? So here you've got a whole allegorical picture of what's going on in their lives by the shipwreck. And it's to express things and things. So things to talk about, okay? Talk to your parents about indentured servanthood. This has been going on for thousands of years. Basically, a person in a bad situation without any money signs themselves up for a time period of virtual slavery. I will do whatever you tell me to do, whatever hours you want me to work. Just feed me and give me a place to sleep. Okay? So talk about, why has this been so popular, and is it a good thing or a bad thing? Who does it benefit? Who doesn't? Does it not benefit? Does it benefit everybody? Is it bad for everybody? Should it ever be done? Should it never be done? And that sort of thing. I think that's a good thing to start thinking through. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to do as just a thinking activity with your family or with book club is to take that allegory of those anchors and those shores and apply them to your own life. Okay. What are the anchors in your life? Your parents, your brothers, your sisters, grandparents, your education, your whatever. What's the last anchor? What is, the one thing that if it goes would really, really maybe wreck you? Okay? What are the lee shores in your life? The things that you have to stay away from. Okay? Maybe laziness. Maybe a certain friend that leads you in the wrong direction. Maybe a bad teenage attitude. You need to think about this. What kind of things are potential wreckers for me that I need to stay away from? And what are the anchors that I need to hold fast to? Okay? Then, what would be the consequences if you had this shipwreck? If you went to that lee shore, would it ruin your entire life? Would it hurt somebody else? Would it mess up the short-term future? What is the big picture of this? Okay. Then lastly, and most importantly, if Christ is the only secure anchor, okay, we all sing the song, all other ground is sinking sand, and it's pretty true. And sin is the big lee shore, that leads to death and all things away from our good God. Then how should we hold fast to Christ? And how should we avoid the lee shore of sin? And I would like you to just think about, maybe write about, talk about that with your family. And we'll see you next time.